We're really excited about our summer. We believe we added a franchise cornerstone in Raul Ruidiaz. And with him and Nico under contract for multiple years, we believe that that's a really solid foundation upon which to build. And we addressed our other greatest team need in terms of adding some speed to the squad that was lost when Jordan was hurt. So we accomplished our strategic objectives, and we did it in a way that I think gives us flexibility moving forward as well, while creating competition, I think, literally at every position on the field. So very, very excited about where we are, excited about the run we're on. Won 4 in a row, unbeaten in 7. A big game against first place team coming up. That'll be very difficult, big challenge. Some big games coming up. But 3 of the next 4 are at home. And hopefully we win our home games. We're going to be in a good spot to hopefully make another playoff run.
So you obviously made some good signings, or some important signings. But at the same time, I'm sure you look at some of the deals that maybe got away. How much of the attention how much of your time spending looking at this window do you look at the deals that didn't happen, and how important were the deals that didn't happen, I suppose?
I'd say a couple things. One is 95% of deals don't close. So, and look, it's no surprise that when the deal gets really close and the player gets in market and then doesn't sign, then that's going to raise some eyebrows and stuff like that and cause some heartache. But what I would say is on that one, on Hurtado, there's no reason to beat around the bush anymore. Everybody knows that. We were really concerned. We were trying to do a really hard deal. We were trying to squeeze a DP level player into a TAM size salary slot. And at the end of the day, when the last minute offer came in, where normally you could mitigate some of that, we were capped out. We had $1.5 million that we could offer. After that, there was nothing we could do. So, that's what happened. I don't think there's anything to hide from there. What it does do for us going forward, though, is, again, it creates more flexibility. Now that we have a blank canvas upon which to paint for that next DP slot, and I anticipate us doing that at some point next year. So we keep our options open. We get to see now how this group looks like with Ruidiaz for 6 months. We get to have Jordan back in the fold, and then look and say, all right, how do we make this 3 to 5 year investment on the next one in the most strategic manner possible. So look, it would have been great to add that DP level player in the middle of this season, but again, I think it affords us long term some even better opportunities in terms of adding them next year. So,
how much pressure came in regards to making that bigger offer from the club or the player and the representative?
I'm not going to get into that, Nico. I appreciate the question, but look, stuff happens. The deal closes or doesn't close, and there's lots of things that go into that. And the player will have an opinion, the club will have an opinion, and I'll have an opinion, and rehashing it all doesn't accomplish a whole lot.
For the way you guys have been playing lately, did that change the way you strategically sort of mapped out the last couple weeks of this transfer window? If you guys weren't playing as well as you were, would you have approached anything any differently?
No. Again, really good question, Matt. And what I would say honestly is I think it's my job to think long term and to be strategic. And to have what I would call a tactical adjustment based on a run of form wouldn't be very wise in the big picture of things. So, look, we do have what we believe. We believe we have a good team, right? We believe that the real team is the one we've seen in the last 7 games and not the one that was in the previous 15 games, right? So why do we think that? There are some pretty specific circumstances around how we opened our season. We had Champions League, right? And that was a very tight turnaround that put a lot of stress on our team. And again, if it was just us, I might worry. But if you look at Toronto, they went through the exact same process. 2 years, no off season, really tough from an injury basis, particularly on older players. Okay, we had a transition with our performance coach. We had an excellent performance coach before. We have an excellent performance coach now, but the methodology is slightly different. There's going to be an adjustment period in terms of how we train our guys, and there's going to be some setbacks in the short term. So when we get through that abnormal injury, we analyze, all right, why were we hurt? How were we hurt? All right, we did that. We said, okay, well, there are these 2 things, and they're both over now. We've done the transition. Champions League is passed. Can we expect a normal injury rate from here on out if we do everything right? Yes. Okay. So our performance when we've been healthy, I think, has in fact been pretty excellent. I mean, there's some other things that went into it. We had some red cards, we had squad rotation, some other things, but that was the main thing. And now that we're healthy, if we have a normal, and we had one catastrophic injury in Jordan when we lose a player for the whole season. So, that was why we thought we had a good team. And again, it's a team that's been to back-to-back titles. I hate beating that drum, but that seems pretty obvious to me that you have a title team in 16, go back to the final in 17. You have basically the same group back. It's just you may have individual players regress or get old or things like that. But again, you should have some young ones that get a little bit better. And the group shouldn't be radically different from a data perspective. And ours is not. And so we said we have a good team. If you look at it, we actually started the turnaround before the window. I mean, if you go back to when the run started, and again, I think that was a function of we got healthier. And look, if we lost anything in this period, what we lost was self-belief. I think we started, honestly, reading the newspaper a little bit too much and saying, oh man, now we stink all of a sudden. Gosh, we're not sure about this team. And again, internally, we never lost faith. We like, look, all the data supports that this is going to be a good group once we get our best players on the field. And so I'm really excited about this team. I think we can contend this year. I think that we have good competition within the group. And so, no, the answer to your question is our strategy didn't change. Do I think we needed to add a DP, an elite finisher in Rui Diaz to finish the chances that we were creating all the time? Yes. Will he make lots of people better? I believe he will. So, yes, those were important additions, the ones we made. I think we addressed our two most critical weaknesses. But if you look at our plan, I think it mirrors what we did in 17. In 17, we said, what are our two weakest positions? We said right back and left wing. We brought in Leardom. We brought in Victor Rodriguez. Those players made immediate impacts, and we went on a run. And so what I would say is, again, I understand the optics, but I think there are really concrete reasons for why we got out of the gate slowly this time. I think we've addressed them, we've fixed them. And again, the team was turning itself around even before the additions of these players. And we believe we have a really good chance to contend now with the group that we have.
Speaking of long-term forecasting and blank canvases, have you had discussions with two remaining DPs, one who's now a TAM, about their long-term futures with the club?
With Ozzie and Dempsey you're talking about now? Yeah, look, I mean, Ozzie to me is rounded into form. I mean, I think he had his best performance of the season last week, so we're excited about that. You know, Clint was our leading scorer this year, and, so has it gone to the same plan this year? It hasn't. But I think I give Clint credit. I think he's adjusted to a little bit different role in terms of the group. He was out here the other day with Ray Serrano and a couple of the academy kids, and really doing a nice job of speaking with them, mentoring them. So I think he's still a tremendous asset to our club. And look, it's a normal thing. I think the most frequent criticism of our club in the offseason was, hey, you got a couple of old guys, and you're going to expect as players age that they're going to take on different roles within the group. And again, my job is to get the group right, and then it's up to the coaches to manage the individuals within the group. And again, I think those guys, Alonso and Dempsey, still have a lot to add to the group. Does that mean they're going to be the man all the time as they were in their primes? Maybe not, but that they don't need to be. That's not the role we mapped out for them within this group. And I think that's something that they can still be big pieces to help us the rest of the way.
What about for going into the future next year? Have you had any discussions with them about their roles?
We'll worry about next year, man. We just got done with the summer transfer window. I get to be happy for one day. We'll figure all those problems for next year. We'll figure out after the season.
Brad Smith was brought in on a loan. Is that a loan with an option? Is it just 6 months? What are the details on that?
Yeah. So Brad's on a 12-month loan, and Bournemouth have a right to recall in January. So it gives us a lot of flexibility. The big thing around that contract structure was we did not want to do anything to halt the progress of some of the young players in our team. We wanted to have an option. We wanted to create competition. We wanted to bring in a flexible player. He can play multiple positions. And we think, again, it's one that really helps our group. Again, we hope that Brad comes in and is lights out. And again, I think he adds an element that we didn't have within the group. And it'll be up to the coaches to decide how best to use him, how best to use Nuhu, how best to use Waylon, how best to use Victor. But again, my job is to give them difficult choices, and then hopefully all those guys compete and play well. And then we're all saying it every week, like, man, how are they keeping that guy on the bench and that guy? Those are wonderful debates, as opposed to, gosh, I wonder if they can field 11 healthy players, which is the conversations we were having in March and April. We're literally like, if you look at the Chivas away leg, we were missing 7 starters. Like that's just not normal. So where we are now is much, much more normal. And again, I think Brad's a great addition because it really gives us competition in multiple ways.
When you have those players in the bench, maybe other teams might have interest in them. Were there any calls about Waylon or Nuhu during this transfer window?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we're again in a I try to look for outside or objectively correct feedback, right? I mean, it's great that I have an opinion our team is good, but do other people think our team is good? And the evidence is we get lots of calls about players, and it's not just those two. We get lots of calls about lots of players, and that's certainly part of a transfer window. I mean, it's literally there in the name. It's a transfer window. So this is the time of year when GMs talk about lots of different things and lots of different scenarios. But specifically, we got a lot of good players, and so people call us and ask about them, and they're going to keep asking about them. And again, we view that as a good thing, because if there's a market for your guys, that means that they're valued. And again, the fact that we held on to everybody, I think, shows how much we value those guys. And again, it reinforces the message that we think we have a good group. We want competition. We highly value these guys, and that's why they're still on our team.
You mentioned your interest in cracking the English market. From your conversations, the English have traditionally been a little bit finicky about sending young players abroad to develop. Do you get the sense that there's growing interest in England, maybe in using MLS as a loan option?
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't speak to England as an entity, right? I mean, we met a partner in Bournemouth that was interested and willing to work with us. And certainly they've been great to work with, and I think they're kind of giving us a chance, and they're going to kick the tires on us, and we're going to see how this goes. But look, I am really excited about that market. There's a lot of talent, obviously, in that market, and there's some inefficiencies sometimes in how players move. And so it is something that I think that we can really look to, and we can do this again if we get this one right. So what I would say is, Bournemouth is invested in us getting it right. We're invested in getting it right. Brad's invested in getting it right. Hopefully, when you got everybody pulling the same direction, then it's got a high chance of success.
The one element you kind of mentioned is you're always looking years down the line. This seemed to, at least with Hurtado, it seemed like an opportunity to potentially shore up the next, or to address some of the needs potentially in the next window, this window, and to get out of the cycle of having to look for a DP in the winter. How much of a concern is potentially going into the winter window, again, looking to add a DP when you've said it's very difficult to add a DP at that time?
It's not a concern of mine, to be honest with you. I mean, look, these are not opinions. There are more players available in the summer than there are in the winter. I mean, and it's just, every season ends in the summer, so that's when contracts end, and that's why more guys are available. And it's, the problem was particularly acute in the World Cup year, because as I've said, players don't want to move right before a World Cup. So will the market be looser next January than it was this January? Yes, it will be. And again, we're just, MLS runs in a season that's not concurrent with the rest of the world, and what I'd say is these are for me high-class problems is what I'd say, Jeremiah. As we double the salary cap, now we're pushing forward into territory where we're getting players, whether it's in the EPL or it's somebody like Hurtado. We had no chance at these guys. These guys were high-level DPs just 2 years ago, and now we're trying to put them into a TAM budget, and they're not freaking out about that. Like, we're trying to get them in, and so by definition, then these are guys that are going to be more competed for, and there's going to be more issues, and there's going to be limitations with our structure that we're going to have to adapt and overcome. And so, look, I view it as growing pains, but like really, really good growing pains, because MLS is becoming a big-time league, and as we become a big-time league, then clubs like Bournemouth are going to say, hey, those are guys we want to work with, and they're 3 to 5 year decisions, and I know it stinks to be patient sometimes, but again, I think the two that we've done so far with Ladero and Rui Diaz, I think those guys are pretty good, and they're under contract for multiple years, and I think that's the right philosophy in terms of how to build a franchise. And so, again, will we be active for a DP in January? I promise we will, but we're going to make the right decision for the franchise. And again, what I'm going to unpack the question that's underneath yours, which is, hey, you've had a couple of slow starts. Are you worried about that? And again, I think there were really discrete, specific reasons why we started slow. I've touched on those, right? But to be clear, in 17, I think that we have discrete individual reasons there. There's not this conspiracy theory that we're set up to fail every spring. I'm not surprised that I don't buy into, right? But 17 was a completely different set of circumstances as well, right? So we changed from the 16 team. You guys know this. We changed 13 players. When you try to integrate 13 players at one time, that takes time. We got 2 of them wrong, right? So that's not a bad hit rate either, right? But you're not going to get 100% of them right. So, and again, like, I wouldn't even say we got 2 of them wrong, because I think our answer was Harry Shipp just wasn't ready yet. It was he appears like he's ready now, and that's part of the Brad Smith lesson with Nuhu. If he's not ready all the time yet, it doesn't mean he's not going to get ready. It's that we're going to give him a structure where maybe he can get ready a little bit of time down the road. So, again, I think that there are, and even go back 1 year to 16, we had some structural issues there, and to me, we made a coaching change, and that appears to be the right decision because we won the title and we've gone to the final since then. So, again, I think there are objective, fact-based reasons why we've started slow, and so I don't worry about not having a DP because I think we've addressed the objective reasons for slow starts. You could look at the Brad Smith signing and say, hey, we've actually got a guy on loan for the first half of next year. So, look, we're cognizant of it. We believe we built in a little bit of buffer. But again, our belief, might be wrong, but our belief is that we have a good group and that we're continuing to build this in a systematic manner. And, with our academy, that's going to be even more insurance, right? Our next step with those kids, we said we're 3 years away. Next year, hopefully even the rest of this year, though, we're going to see a bunch of those kids start to play for S2 so we can really get our fans in Tacoma excited. I'm really excited about it. And now we're going to start that transition. As we get those guys 18 months in S2, and now they start pushing in the first team. Now this whole idea of the cycle, that's how you break the cycle, right? But that's the long-term structural solution. And the short-term is you still got to get the DPs right, man, because if you miss on a DP, you don't get do-overs on those. We're talking about literally mostly 3 to 4 year deals. If you miss, you're in a world of hurt. I mean, it's like missing on a first-round quarterback. Like, you get that wrong, it takes a long time to walk back. So is there some risk in the beginning of the season? Sure, yeah, but again, I think if you get them right, your team's going to be pretty good. And again, we are not strategically doing anything in the beginning of the season. We are trying to play as well as we could. Again, there are different reasons each year why we've had those slow starts.